Listen, what if I were to tell you that America doesn't have a problem, but instead that America is the problem? Hi, hello. My name is Sol. Welcome to our archive. I created this channel so that we can learn, unlearn, and grow together. Before I get started, don't forget to like and subscribe because we're trying to grow our community. I do want to say there's a video that I recorded about coffee that is sitting in my drafts right now that I need to edit. However, in comma, since we are right now facing one of the scariest times in American history, I think it's more important that I sit down and make this video, which I made like a short version of this on TikTok. You're welcome to follow my TikTok and watch it there. But I felt it would be more of service if I took the time to sit and make a longer form essay type video with the caveat that, to be honest, I am such a perfectionist that I always think it has to be like extra cited and extra perfect. Babes, I had my AA in political science. I had my BA in international studies. I worked at an immigration law firm for 5 years. The credentials can keep credentialing. At the end of the day, I am a person who is impacted by US foreign policy and also immigration law since before birth. And so, yeah, I'm gonna talk my shit about the US regime, and you're welcome to listen. More specifically, though, in this video, we're going to be looking at ICE, which is the Immigration and Custom Enforcement here in the United States, because I think it's important that we, one, know what's happening right now in real time, but two, more importantly, understand the origins of where ICE comes from, why it's able to operate in the way that it operates today, and at the end of the day, what it says about America and its idea of policing and protection and safety in general. And the TLDR of this video is going to be that ICE is straight up a derivative of the slave catcher, slave controller police system that was in place when America was entering and going into the Civil War. And the fact that they don't care to hide that and don't care to pretend that they are not a derivative of it is scary. But again, and also it is a light that we need to focus on so that we know that the violence that is happening in our communities right now isn't new. It's just reshaped and reformed from Jim Crow, from slavery, from colonialism. This is the same shit rebranded. If you see the camera shaking, be patient with me because we have a funny little setup, but I'm gonna do what I gotta do so that we can get this out as soon as possible. So I'm currently on ice.gov/history, literally the website for US Customs and Immigration. Okay, now we're gonna read this together. Despite US Immigration and Custom Enforcement's relatively young age, its functional history encompassing the broad roles, responsibilities, and federal statutes now carried out and enforced by the men and women of ICE predates the modern birth of the agency by more than 200 years. Keep that 200 years in mind. In March of 2003, the Homeland Security Act set into motion what would be the single largest government reorganization since the creation of the Department of Defense. One of the agencies in the new Department of Homeland Security was the Bureau of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, now known as the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Congress granted ICE a unique combination of civil and criminal authorities to better protect national security and public safety in answer to the tragic events of 9/11. Leveraging those authorities, ICE's primary mission is to promote homeland security and public safety through the criminal and civil enforcement of federal laws governing border control, customs, trade, and immigration. ICE now has more than 20,000 law enforcement and support personnel in more than 400 offices in the United States and around the world. The agency has an annual budget of approximately $8 billion, primarily devoted to three operational directorates: Homeland Security Investigations, Enforcement and Removal Operations, and Office of the Principal Legal Advisor. A fourth directorate, Management and Administration, supports the three operational branches to advance the ICE mission. So, what is ICE doing with this unique combination of civil and criminal authorities to better protect national security and public safety? I don't know. Killing US citizens in broad daylight as they're trying to leave? Arresting US citizens left and right and separating families? Mm, Taking children as little as 5 years old away from their parents and away from school? Taking away funding from other social services and other things that maybe need it more, and instead putting more billions of dollars into this agency? And because the point of this channel, and it's literally called Soul's Archive, I'm more than likely going to change it to Los Archivos de Sol, which is what I've changed my Instagram now to, just because there will be Spanish content coming here shortly. But because it is an archive, and because the intent of the space is an archive, I'm going to be putting some clips here of what's happening currently in America.
They doing too much, man, and they keep pushing people, you know?
Oh shit! What the fuck?
kill him? Did they fucking kill that guy? Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Not again. Are you fucking kidding me? That guy's dead. Yo, we need people on.
To shoot a second person. Shoot and kill a second person in Minneapolis. This crowd gathered to protest because another member of their community had been gunned down by federal immigration agents who are ostensibly here on a mission of safety, so the administration says.
Today is the largest strike in American history in the past 70 years, and it's happening right now in Minneapolis, a statewide strike in Minnesota. You can see behind me, people are out here. Union workers are shutting down. Stores everywhere are shutting down. Students are refusing to go to class, and the streets are occupied everywhere here in Minneapolis. Negative 30 degrees. The revolution is here.
I'm outside. I'm outside. It doesn't say out here. And I've just been ordered to leave the premises. I'm outside of the Dilley facility here in South Texas. There's a demonstration of detainees taking place inside right now. We were all asked to leave. There's a drone flying up ahead right now. It's an extremely bizarre situation. You can hear them shouting.
Now, let's read the slave patroller's oath from North Carolina in 1828, which is, you guessed it, 200 years ago. I, patroller's name, do swear that I will, as searcher for guns, swords, and other weapons among the slaves in my district, faithfully and as privately as I can, discharge the trust reposed in me as the law directs to the best of my power, so help me God. And if you're curious as to what the oath that ICE agents and federal agents have to take today, the oath of office is, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. And according to this article titled Slave Patrols, an Early Form of American Policing on the National Law Enforcement Office's Memorial Fund, it lists here that the responsibility of patrols was straightforward: to control the movements and behaviors of enslaved populations. According to historian Gary Potter, slave patrols serve three main functions: one, to chase down, apprehend, and return to their owners runaway slaves; two, to provide a form of organized terror to deter slave revolts; and three, to maintain a form of discipline for slave workers who were subject to summary justice outside of the law. Organized policing was one of the many types of social controls imposed on enslaved African Americans in the South. Physical and psychological violence took many forms, including an overseer's brutal whip, the intentional breakup of families, deprivation of food and other necessities, and the private employment of slave catchers to track down runaways. First formed in 1704 in South Carolina, patrols lasted over 150 years, only technically ending with the abolition of slavery during the Civil War. However, just because the patrols lost their lawful status did not mean that their influence died out in 1865. Haddon argues there are distinct parallels between the legal slave patrols for the war and extra-legal terrorization tactics used by vigilante groups during Reconstruction, most notoriously the Ku Klux Klan. And then after the Civil War, Southern police departments often carried over aspects of the patrols. These included systematic surveillance, the enforcement of curfews, and even notions of who could become a police officer. Though a small number of African Americans joined the police force in the South during Reconstruction, they met active resistance. Though law enforcement looks very different today, the profession developed from practices implemented in the colonies. So when we've had activists telling us for not decades, but centuries at this point, that policing as we know it today in America is straight up just a byproduct of slavery and the fact that the South literally could never let that go, get a hobby. I think it makes me not surprised that ICE is operating in the way that it is today with full impunity, and that if there's anything that 2016 taught me, it's that America America does not have a problem. Like I said, America is the problem. And America has been exploiting its working class since forever. But white people have this disease. I'm going to look for this clip. Hold on. It's so important today to put this clip of Toni Morrison where she's straight up questioning, like, when you were so deep in your racism, this borderline neurosis. I love her. Let's watch it.
But don't you understand that the people who do this thing, who practice racism, are bereft? There is something distorted about the psyche. It's a huge waste, and it's a corruption and a distortion. It's a profound neurosis that nobody examines for what it is. It feels crazy. It is crazy. If the racist white person, I don't mean the person who is examining his consciousness and so on, doesn't understand that he or she is also a race. It's also constructed. It's also made. And it also has some kind of serviceability. But when you take it away, I take your race away. And there you are, all strung out. And all you got is your little self. And what is that? What are you without racism? Are you any good? Are you still strong? You still smart? You still like yourself? I mean, these are the questions.
Racism
if you
to
have to
somehow
hold, that's
for his or her own self-esteem and definition.
If you can only be tall because somebody's on their knees, then you have a serious problem. And my feeling is white people have a very, very serious problem. And they should start thinking about what they can do about it. Take me out of it.
Then give white people some free advice.
They're all in my books.
And the sad reality is that this very pervasive racism that has lasted now centuries in America has like seeped into the Latino community. I remember in June when the ICE activity ramped up in Los Angeles, I went one of the first days where it started, and to my disappointment, how many officers had Hernandez, Marquez, Martinez on their like attire? It's disgusting. But as a femme Latina from El Salvador who understands how respectability politics within the Latino community often breeds so much fucking boot eating, not even licking, eating, it doesn't shock me that certain Latinos and other marginalized communities are joining ICE, because at a time where the United States federal government is intentionally tanking the economy and making it harder than ever to be a part of the working class, people feel like their only option for survival is to join ICE because of their sign-up bonuses and because of the insane salaries that they have, because of how much money is being allocated to these fucking agencies. And despite the fact that we have well documented evidence about how many human rights abuses and violations are happening at the hands of ICE, the House has passed a sprawling spending package as Democrats split over ICE funding. And now this beast that already had $8 billion allocated to it, as published by NPR on January 22nd, 2026, House approves spending bills despite many Democrats' objections to ICE funds. The House passed the final slate of funding measures Thursday, covering large swaths of the federal government, sending the package to the Senate ahead of the January 30th deadline to avert a partial shutdown. Now, I entered at a domestic violence shelter with children for a year, and having had so much psychoeducation about abuse, I have to ask myself, how does it feel to be in an abusive relationship with your own federal government, knowing that they're manipulating you and stripping away your basic needs and fundamental rights so that they can then get you to beg and plead for crumbs while putting over like, hey, yeah, we'll give you this, but how about you give us like $1.8 billion for ICE? And I'm going to be honest, I think a lot about the children, because there is no way in hell, knowing how much information we have today about how adverse childhood experiences affect children and their physiological development way past their childhood and into their adult years. I think about how much this is going to affect our kids. I think about how much this is already affecting our kids. And I think about the fact that like the government doesn't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. You want to know why? Again, because they're blatantly telling you on the website of where they're telling you the history of ICE that they've been doing this for 200 plus years. Despite the fact that what we call today ICE is new, that doesn't mean that this sort of violence and harm and surveillance hasn't been happening for over 200 years. And when we ask ourselves why it's been happening for this long, slavery was a thing because of profit. And when immigration law, immigration policy, and ICE happens and is because of profit. This is all for money. These ICE detention centers, private. These contracts that we're signing with other countries like El Salvador, who is this profiting? Who is this benefiting? Who is this helping? So I beg you to ask yourself, when you look at police officers, when you look at the military, when you look at ICE, what are you actually looking at? Are you looking at these agencies that we know them as today? Or are you looking at repackaged and rebranded slave patrollers and slave controllers? Mama, I'm tired. I'm tired. Our communities are tired. But I wouldn't be me if I didn't try to end something like on a more lighter note. It's not in a thing of like, oh my God, let's make light of this. No, but it's more in a please remember that everything that they're doing is to instill fear in us and make us feel as though we don't have agency. But I'm going to remind you now that you do have agency. One, get connected with your local community organizations that are doing on the ground work. Two, support folks who are being directly impacted by ICE raids and ICE policy, whether that be financially, whether that be emotionally, whether that be physically, whatever you have the capacity for. Three, start having conversations and dialogue with people about what ICE is actually doing. Because I think a lot of people, and this is intentional, by the way, a lot of people may not even be fully aware as to what's going on by the hands of ICE because there's so much censorship that's happening today. And so have conversations, have dialogue, be open, but also don't let them gaslight you into thinking again that this is new and that this is normal. This is not fucking normal. It is not normal to see videos coming out of Minneapolis of whistles blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing nonstop because ICE is walking around just kidnapping people, shooting them, harming them. No, this is not normal. No, this is not normal. No, this is not normal. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking that it is normal, but also don't let them strip you away from your power. Today more than ever, community matters. Today more than ever, your support matters. And today more than ever, your voice matters as well. That's why I'm making this fucking video, because we have knowledge. They hate that we have fucking knowledge. That's what they're trying to get rid of their education system. Ay, Dios guarde. Anyway, I'm gonna link below some organizations that are doing some really great on the ground work right now. And I encourage you to go ahead and drop a comment as to what orgs you know of that are doing work that would benefit from some support, and also what you're doing to both support our community but also support yourself. Because right now, again, we need to take care of ourselves. For those who are doing really intense work right now, I highly recommend looking into Rest is Resistance. It's a really great book that reminds us that there is a fine balance between doing work and also ensuring that we are caring for ourselves so that we can show up and continue to do the work sustainably. So anyways, if you made it here this long, thank you so much. It is 3:44 in the morning, so I am going to call it a video here. But again, feel free to like, subscribe. I have a Substack, I have a TikTok, I have an Instagram. Yeah, we're here. Okay, anyways, have a great night.